So we'll start. Okay. Evolution of consciousness. Yesterday we touched it from the point of view of evolution, perspective of evolution, and today we can touch upon it from the point of view of consciousness. But three important things before we complete this idea of evolution, which we can say is the most happening thing without our realizing it. And why it is the most happening thing? Because in this creation there is a tremendous current which is pushing us forward, whether we like it or not. Sometimes this forward movement may take the form of a tumble inside, like the waves. So you see, when waves rise and they fall and they rise again, yet the movement is forward. So we should never forget that even the apparent rise, apparent fall, changing of seasons, things which seem pleasant, things which seem painful, through all of it we are constantly moving forward. Evolution is when this forward movement suddenly assumes a rapid, almost there is a leap. There is a leap across a certain chasm of time. So there are three important things which need to be considered here. That one is that only that which is inside can express. So evolution essentially is a manifestation of a possibility that is hidden inside. It's not a magic box. Matter is not a magic box from which things are just emerging automatically. What is inside, that comes out. It has practical implications. Ultimately, the divine seed is inside us. But there is something we as parents, as society, as, when children are very small, we have something which we can also put inside the children. It helps when things begin to emerge. This was the whole idea of sanskar. It has its own limitations. You can't completely change the evolutionary journey of a person, but it helps to an extent. Which includes stories. It helps tremendously. But in the larger sense, what it means is that a time comes when a higher possibility emerges from within. That's what we say when we talk about evolution. Out of the ape-like humanity comes the human being. And during that time, someone embodies this next level of consciousness. And because of that person's presence, there is a pressure from all around, from above, from within, from all around, for this new thing to emerge. So what it means is that today, Aurobindo speaks about the next level, which is the supramental consciousness. So because of that, there is a tremendous pressure on humanity to break through the limits of the mind for this new consciousness to emerge, because its hour has come. People didn't speak about it earlier because the moment had not come. But now the time has come, and so we are feeling all this tremendous pressure. It is taking various forms. One of them is that there is more and more feeling. Many people go through a feeling of being stifled inside. Something they want, they don't know what they want. It's become very vague. Sometimes it takes very intense form because the chick is now wanting to come out of the egg. So this is the first aspect we need to understand, and how to facilitate it by strengthening this atmosphere. We are discussing about it. Strengthen it in the home, strengthen it, create your own atmosphere, and by strengthening of this atmosphere, this pressure inside, the chick comes out. All satsang and sangham, all its purpose is to basically create this intense pressure for the emergence. Second is that while the breakthrough, critical breakthrough is tangible, visible, and takes place as if it's a magic, a miraculous moment, there is suddenly a revelation of God. But we must understand there are several micro steps that has gone into this process. So we all feel very happy reading the great vision of Shri Krishna Vishwarup in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. You have this Shri Krishna revealing himself to Arjun. We read it, but it doesn't get automatically revealed to us. Why it is revealed to Arjun? What's so special about Arjun? So Shri Krishna tells him that we have been together from age to age as Nar and Narayan. They have been the two famous sages. And they fought the battle of the ages. And then a time comes that the grand revelation takes place. Now this is important because sometimes we don't want to take that small steps and we want that grand thing to take place. So to give an example, there is a place in Darjeeling called Tiger Hill. It's at a height. And if you go there, its specialty is that from a distance you can see Kanchenjunga. And when the light falls, the sun rays, it's something amazing. It's almost like it's lit up with a golden light. Now, this glimpse is fine. But if you have to reach Kanchenjunga, you have to come down from that peak and then go up and down. The Vedic Rishi spoke about it. It's literally like a hill which you climb, come down. You climb, you come down till you reach that great mountain peak. There's several steps. There is no magic that suddenly you reach there. So people often, get frustrated. I have been meditating for the last 2 years, 10 years. 10 years is a big period. So nothing has happened. It doesn't happen like that. It does happen. Something does happen. 10 years is a big moment if one is really doing meditation in the true sense. Or one has turned, meditation is not the only way. One is contemplating the divine. One is feeling that bhakti for the divine, service of the divine. Things begin to happen. But the critical experiences, they take time. And each of them nourish us and prepare us eventually for that leap. What it practically means, and which we can see today, that there will be number of intermediate species. Sometimes people are worried about, what's happening to this generation, that generation. I often use a term that, there will be probably a couple of generations which will be like a washout generation. Yet they will be feeder for, that Walt Whitman's poem that those who will pass beyond us. So it's inevitable. It's like, if you look at the history of human evolution, though some people would now doubt it, but just as we had the Ram-Ravan Yuddha between the human and the Vanara, which is a subspecies of human, and the Asura, which is another species of humanity, Rakshasa, and eventually the human won and continued. So there are also stories which have not been documented like this in Europe. There was a fight somewhere between the Cro-Magnon and the Neanderthal. Now we neither hear of Neanderthal, poor fellows collapsed apparently, and the Cro-Magnon, they were supposed to be the good guys. The story, it took a different form. Whatever it be, now we don't have either of them, we have something new. So similarly, we will see many things which will happen, and nature evolves like that. Another example is of this dolphin. So before dolphin, there were about 8 or 9 steps that nature took to perfect just in one particular subspecies, sonar transmission, another, speaking. Ultimately, all these subspecies vanished. And you have the dolphin, which is the final product. So we will go through that phase. There will be intermediary species. Mother spoke about it. And we should not get, what's happening? Because we don't understand the way divine works. So there will be maybe a generation which will only say, I want to explore myself, me, myself, as it is called. They will try to, enter into their subjectivity. They may say that it's me, but actually it's the vital self. But this is how evolution takes place. Still, finally, it will happen at the level of nations also. But eventually, all this will become a catalyst. Sri Aurobindo speaks about humanity evolving through the subjective age. In subjective age, your locus standi is inside. You are what you are, and there is an indefinable something, and you may identify with all kinds of things. But subjective age detaches you from the gross physical engagement with purely a material, so-called objective reality. And this has started since 60s. And it's going to grow more and more till eventually we end up discovering the deepest self. So there will be many intermediary links. Even in our own life, we will go through many transitions. Those who take to yoga, how much ever rapid it may be. For example, I can share something. There was a time when I would want to put, this person's bhajan, that person's. It was, it gave a joy. Then there was a time when I would want only quietude. I don't want anything. Then there comes a time when you want only Savitri. So I can't, put anything else. And it's so strange. It becomes so difficult that was something so lovely. You enjoyed and you felt nourished, and now it's like a travesty. But at point it was required. So in the evolutionary journey, one has to be ready to leave behind the past. It's very difficult because we hold on to the past. Or we may say the past is holding on to me. But if we take this example of forward movement, nature teaches us so much that you have one foot steady on the step in which you had landed, and then the other foot moves forward. And then this has to steady itself. And then you have to lift the left foot and take it forward. You can't just, there is a very nice, and all spiritual journey is like that. Very nice couplet of Kabir, and I'll translate in English. It says, "Do patan ke beech mein sabut bachana koi." If you put yourself one foot here and one foot there, stepping in two boats, it's all right. When you're coming out from one boat and transiting to another, yes, you will have that you have to steady on this boat and you go there. But the sooner you put yourself fully in the other boat, the better it is. And this is going to be one of the big challenges of the new creation. Because the past, we are attached to it. And past is, even the bestest of the past, is still, when we look at it from the standpoint of what is going to come, it pales, literally pales. There is a poem that Dilip Kumar Roy once wrote to, he didn't write, but somebody's poem he translated and he sent to Aurobindo, that somebody has written so much in praise of you, and he has written, "Hey, last Rishi of, so he says, I don't know whether to be happy about it or sad, because he has hailed you as a Rishi, nevertheless as the last Rishi." So, and Aurobindo says, how do you know he is not right? Because what's going to come will be much greater. For us, the Rishi, the sage, and we are still with that. What's going to come? The mother spoke about the Superman. It's a very different breed altogether. The highest ape, with all his magnificent vitality, is not human. Human is still human, a totally distinct species. So what they are going to bring for us is something very, very different. And unless we value it, and always the past will hold us back in so many ways. Ideas, ideology, all the things that mind has spun as a web, which was needed at a stage of evolution, but has to be left behind for the next step forward. So this about evolution. Then this term, what is evolving really? Some people say my mind is evolving, my heart is evolving. But what really is evolving? What is the first thing that evolves or changes? That's where the term consciousness comes. What is consciousness? Very simply, we normally use the word as awareness. I am conscious means I am aware. That's how we normally understand it. How do we become aware? We become aware of things through the senses to start with. And secondly, with the mind. Mind analyzes the data of the senses and we become aware. That's how awareness in human beings operates. There are species below human which become aware only through a contact with the senses. They don't have a data analyzing process like this. The proper data analysis starts with cobra. That's very rudimentary actually, just very rudimentary data. But otherwise, actually when you go up the ladder, little bit of that processing start. Otherwise, the reaction is sensory reaction and immediate reaction, the sensory input and the reaction. So awareness also implies almost it is inbuilt within it is action. You become aware and you act. Even choosing not to act is an action. Freeze reaction, as they say in psychology, that there are 3 responses human beings can make to a perceived threat: flight, fight, and freeze. So whoever gave this theory, I keep saying they don't know about the Indian tradition. We have another response, the master stroke. Plunge yourself in the divine. I use this as an analogy because of the real event. Mother recalls Alexandra David Neal, that how she is entering into a forest where there is... See, this is a classic example. That they were all going through a mountain and she felt like meditating. And they all said that don't be alone because it's going to be evening and there is tiger which is known to be in this territory. And obviously, to be alone before a tiger, even if you are a woman, it's not, safe. Because you may be embodying that spirit of Kali, but still. So she said, doesn't matter. She still sat there. And these people went further, and after some time she sensed the presence of the tiger. So she opened her eyes. So now you see here there is a perception which transcends the senses, which many people develop, extrasensory perception. She sensed the presence. Often people say, how do you sense the divine presence? It's not that you sense it through these senses. They are incapable fundamentally, but through another sense. But we are taught not to rely on that. This is another problem, that no, you have to rely only on the senses. But mystics know that they rely on the divine, the other senses which are latent in man. That's a different subject. Maybe we'll come to it a moment later. So she sensed the presence of something which is not very safe, and she opened the eyes and she saw the tiger. Now see, based on your awareness, you make a response. So ordinarily, in consciousness, both these things are together. Knowledge and will, they are together. We at the mind level distinguish, but automatically a response comes. So she could have made a response of being afraid. She could have made a response of maybe shouting, maybe somebody will listen. She could have made several responses, but she made a very unusual response. Because her consciousness was so much suffused with the thought of Buddha, that suddenly at that moment she says, well, if the tiger is hungry and, if this is how I am destined to become a food to satisfy his hunger, I am fine with it. And with that thought, she closed her eyes. Nothing happened. The tiger went away. Now you see, it's a totally different response. Mother speaks about when she was meditating and she sees a cobra right in front, And she makes a response that, why is he threatening at me when I have no neither fear nor anger in my heart? So she sees that she is sitting on top of the den of the cobra, or the hole of the cobra. She realizes that she was sitting below a tree. Very gently, while looking in the eyes of the cobra, she shifts little by little by little. And then the cobra understands. How does he understand? She's communicated nothing. Okay, she doesn't mean to, she's not a threat to me. And slithers away back to the pond. Another story of her with the cobra is when the car door is open and suddenly a cobra slides inside, and the mother right in front of her is there inside the car. And Pranab Da is also sitting there. And she just stares, and again after some time it goes away, and Pranab Da says, you should have killed the cobra. She said, I am the mother. I am the mother. Now you see, in that consciousness, and this consciousness, when it changes, it has an impact on everything. We make spirituality disconnected with life. This Bhagwan ka naam sab theek hai. People say all this is fine, but you don't know what is real life. As if those who have turned, they have not gone through the steps. So we have the story where there is a classical 2 ways of responding to life. One is what I call as the gospel of Hiranyakashipu. And the second is the gospel of Prahlad. So what is the gospel of Hiranyakashipu? He wants to control all the possible factors. He has a checklist. Okay, I don't want to die with this, I don't want to die. Yes, all the checklist he has ticked and he's very happy. And on top of it, he has 911. Everything. He knows the doctors, the lawyers, everybody. He feels I am practically immune. Prahlad doesn't know all that. He simply says, Hari, 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 Hari. And Hiranyakashipu dies and Prahlad survives. This is the power of the One. Because his consciousness has changed, he's begun to see the One Divine everywhere. So even when he's thrown off the cliff, I don't know, anyone has read the experience of Prahlad described in the Purana when he's thrown off the cliff. It's one of the most amazing experiences of the Divine. He literally experiences Lord Vishnu appear and take him in his arms. And generally, a person living by the sensory stimulus will say, "Arey, all this is myth. All this is useless things, stories and legends." So let me recount a real story which, in my own life, I experienced. My first, when I have said, come to Pondicherry that evening, and that evening I sat down, went down the rocks. That time there were rocks. I know somebody may remember. There were rocks and you go down and there was a little beach. And I was sitting there. It's the evening 7, nice moon is haunting moon. And Maheshwariji is sitting on the beach proper. And as I was coming, I slipped, or so I felt, on the rocks. Maybe I had a little experience, but that's not relevant to what I'm saying. But as I was coming up, I felt I've slipped. Means my feet I was literally made to do Sirsasana in a very awkward way. So, or Sarvangasana, because my head, when I recollected, I didn't lose consciousness, but I recollected my head is on the rock and my little back is on the little sand between rock and my feet are like this on another rock, like that. So, Sarvangasana by default. But actually what I experienced during that period is that somebody has held me in the hand and like a flower is placing me. It was such a blissful experience. Even now when I recount, I have those hair on index. It was like a flower. And that moment I experienced lot of joy inside. Not joy as a joy, but a very soft, something like a state of inner bliss. And I didn't feel like getting up from the rock. Because it's such a joy. And then Maheshwariji had seen a head come up and then go down suddenly. So he called, Alok. So he was obviously troubled and I said, I'm fine. I got up and came up. But that lingering moment. So what happened? Now, ordinarily we would say, these are all stories. But when the consciousness changes, things change. They change in the world. They change first for us individually. But why doesn't it change? Because it requires a leap of faith. Oh, to think always of mother, how will your life go on? Who will take care of things? And life will bring its own share of challenge. It doesn't mean that, okay, now I won't fall sick and baggage won't be lost. Everything it happens, but still, through all this, as Aurobindo says in Savitri, a hand of grace is felt upon our lives. Now, this is what is actually a change of consciousness which happens and can go to any extent. So, what really is the mechanism? There is only one consciousness. They are not different consciousnesses. But one consciousness can be experienced at different levels, like water in the highest, if you go up as cloud or as vapor and as water running through the stream, through the land, pure water from the Gomukh and solid water at Ganga Sagar and then as solid ice. So there is only one consciousness, but it's experienced differently at different levels. But for us, the fundamental thing is that this consciousness can be limited, or because in its origin it is infinite, it can be experienced as infinite and eternal. words that, again, what is eternal? What is infinite? So we'll not go into it right now. But this consciousness gets limited by what? By the form which it has built and identified itself with. There's a very beautiful passage in Kathopanishad. Agniri is actually very lyrical. Agniri, somebody may remember fully. Agniri yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma. Rupam rupam pratirupo bahishcha. Vayur yathaiko bhuvanam pravishto rupam rupam pratirupo babhuva. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma. So it continues like that. Suryo yatha sarva lokasya chakshu nalipyate chakshushay bahya dosha. Eko vashi sarva bhutantaratma nalipyate loka dukkhena bahya. Nityo nityanam chetanas chetananam. You see now, it's such a beautiful, it's not just mantra, it's a whole practice and psychology which is given there. This consciousness can be, now comes the practical implication. How do we, what really happens? So normally our consciousness is identified with the form, with the senses. So the awareness is limited and the action is limited. So, in fact, Aurobindo speaks about 10 layers of evolutionary humanity. And the lowest layer is where it lives by instinct. And then there is humanity which is identified with the senses. Pramatha. Humanity identified with the vital, pishacha. So as is our consciousness identified, so is everything else in our life. So if my consciousness is identified only with the body, De Atma Bodha as it is called, I'll be full of fear because I'm experiencing body is so transient, it is changing. I want to somehow maintain my youth or youthful look and energy, and I'm taking hormones and capsule and this and that. And naturally, with progression of age, physical age, there is trouble, there is distress. And slowly from friends list on my phone, the doctor's list begins to increase. Because it is both. Everything in my life will then stem from that. There will be insecurity. I want people who can physically support me. Why? Because consciousness is identified with the body. And worse still with the senses. Or it may be stationed in the mind, or let's say in the heart. And I'll be a bundle of emotions. Good or bad is a different thing, but I'll be a bundle of emotions. Reacting to everything with, oh, I'm so happy to meet you, and why are you going, because it's identified with the emotions. Nobody will understand. Because it's a mind-centric civilization. Oh, you are a sissy baby, but you can't help it. But the same person, if he identifies the consciousness with the mind, he'll be all, intellectual analysis, left brain, right brain. As the joke goes, that man has two sides of the brain, the left and the left has nothing right in it. Hold on, and the right has nothing left in it. That's how civilization has developed. Right brain has gone for a toss and the left. So because it is identified. You see, people who are identified with ideas will fight, kill others and get killed. Ideas, ideologies, systems, philosophies. And they hold so strongly. People have asked me sometime, which school does Aurobindo belong to? Dvaita, and they will give options. Dvaita or Advaita. So I tell them, you have not given the third option. Visishta Dvaita, Bheda Veda doctrine. Give for. Yes, which one? I said, there is one more option you have not given. None of the above and all of the above. And something more than all of the above. Why? Because we are stuck. When we are in the mental domain, we are constantly doing it, comparing, contrasting. Oh, what Aurobindo said is also in the Gita. Excuse me, you have neither read the Gita carefully and certainly not Aurobindo, otherwise you would not say that. So there It's because of the mind. You should not even try to convince anybody. But when the consciousness shifts from the mind to something higher than the mind, then the whole perception changes. So the whole trick is to withdraw the consciousness from its engagement with the surface activities into deeper and higher realms. This is what we were yesterday speaking of. This is what the Gita speaks of. First is Buddhi Yoga. And from there, several types of practice will emerge. When people are discussing the weather, just smile. Don't have to get into it. Oh yeah, it is so, we don't know, it's very unprecedented rain. Oh, I got wet. Oh, my clothes are drying outside. Oh, it's so hot. Oh, DC has recorded so much temperature, but in Delhi it's soaring to 50. What kind of discussion? I mean. But at that point of time, we need not say anything, but inwardly, let the consciousness detach itself from the senses. And it can go to that extent. And there are examples. Our own, of course, it's known about, I think it was Sri Raman Maharshi undergoing a surgery, or was it Sri Ramakrishna? And he didn't experience the pain without anesthesia. Yeah. Amal Kiran, he is watching the operation from above, all the steps of the surgery. It can completely come out of the engagement with physical body. People feel insulted. It has so many practical implications. Spirituality is the thing for life, even normal life, ordinary life. When somebody told the mother, oh, he is always insulting me, what should I do? Mother gave a one-line reply. She said, the soul never feels insulted, it's only ego which is hurt. Finished. So he said, okay, it's not that person's problem, it's my problem. It's not that the other person does not continue to insult, but when he sees that it is not affecting you. Why it is not affecting? Because your inner being has changed. Because you have withdrawn from that. This is the famous story of Nalnida. One lady suddenly stopped him and started, saying all kinds of things. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Nalnida quietly heard. Then after 15 minutes, when she stopped for a breath, he said, Hoye gelo, ami jabo? Are you done? Shall I go? And then he goes away. Why he could give this response? Such a beautiful thing it is. You're not carrying any burden inside. Because he's not identified with the ego self, which gets hurt. And in everyday life, this has great impact. You want to create harmony within the family? Practice spiritual living. People think, it is spiritual life is something which takes you away. No, it engages you in a different way. So when wife gets angry, you will say, Jai Durga Mata. If husband gets angry, you say, Shivji, shant ho jao. Main bhi Kali Roop, I will take the form of Kali if you behave like Shiva and Tandav. No, in the sense that when there is that deep peace inside, equanimity inside, won't it help even mend relationships? And we go to a psychiatrist who will give all kinds of advices, medication. He has to also make his own house and he has also problems. After teaching you how to live harmoniously, he will go home and have a big fight with his wife. The story of Aurobindo, he said, a poem, he said, I am egoless, free, then swore because his dinner was not ready. So see, spirituality is, forget about supramental transformation, even spiritualization, even touching the psychic, such a beautiful thing. Live in a beatitude, an inner joy. And what happens when this is missing? People nowadays say, there is so much drugs problem, this problem, that problem. So how did they try to address it? Either by regulation, it doesn't work, or worse still, making it all free. No regulation, so people will change. They believe that. There are some countries where they legalize. You really believe that if you legalize, it's not going to change? You believe that by satisfying the desire, one day it will get exhausted. It doesn't happen like that. And before it gets exhausted, there will be. But when why people are running after all this? Because they don't get the natural joy. So you need joy from outside, stimulus from outside to feel happy. You don't experience natural love, so you are going here and there and everywhere. We as a human race, not you and me, to get little bit of love. So what is the spiritual saying? What is actually psychic? It's the source. There is the divine presence, which is the source of everything. Behind the psychic is the divine. That's the door. And what does the mother says? It's the divine presence which gives a value to your life. Find that it is the source of all peace, happiness, strength. Find that presence in yourself and all your difficulties will go. The mind will say it can't be as simple as that. But if something gets it and discovers, it is worth all the trouble that one can take in the world. So what is yoga? Yoga is to take a deeper poise and a higher poise and engage with life. This idea that you have to withdraw from life is not at all. And there are steps, equanimity, etc. All this is so that we disengage that consciousness which is identified badly with the form, and because of the form and the senses, all that is happening outside is constantly responding. Aurobindo describes the senses, it's like it responds to every knock on the door. So the practice of disengaging, detachment, equanimity, turning within, constant remembrance, all of them naturally come from that. So when we do that, a time comes when initially you may look like as if you are growing distant, little aloof, because you're withdrawing inside. Go through that process. It's a hatching process. But then there is what is called as a reversal. You suddenly, re-engage with life. Now consciousness has taken a new poise. It has evolved from man the monkey to man the seeker, man the bhakta, man the devotee, man the karmi yogin. Now life changes. Its meaning, purpose, our reactions, relations, everything undergoes a change. We don't get hurt and somebody said this, because you're experiencing that joy of the divine, that love of the divine. You are like, and then the doors of infinity open, which I was mentioning. So there is endless flow of that love from within you. Will anybody ever seek? We have this, someone got for me water from Haridwar as a gift, and live near it. In a bottle, people bring. I said, yeah, this is okay, but the joy of bathing in the Ganges is different. If you can't do it, okay, you have the water from Haridwar, while dying you can put inside the mouth. But we want to bathe in the Ganges. We want to drown in the Ganges. We want to swim in the Ganges. So that is the difference between religion and spirituality. Religion is water from Haridwar. You put a label, you are keeping it for your last days because only this much water is available, no? But spirituality is, you go to the Ganges, you bathe in the Ganges, you drown in the Ganges, and you are reborn in the Ganges. That's what is moksha. The purifying streams that descend. So spirituality is very dynamic. This is a big mistake to believe. And that's how, because consciousness is ultimately the real thing. It changes. So the entire perception changes. And we use different terms, expansion of consciousness, very naturally, because the more on the surface we go, the more it enters into a hole. See, people get into depression. Why do they get into depression? Because consciousness is entered into a narrow hole. At that point, I am thinking only about myself. My hurt, somebody said this, somebody didn't say this. And we have the story of Martin Luther King then going through that depression, and his wife one day tells him, you know the news today? Tell me. God is dead. What nonsense? How can God die? Because he had that. If God is alive, why are you putting us morose face? Where does hope come from? It comes from the fact of the divine presence. To find hope in human beings, to find hope in president and prime ministers and governments is the silliest thing. Hope is not because of Arjun. Hope is because of Krishna. Arjun sans Krishna is nothing. And Krishna, even without Arjun, will create an Arjun. He says that you are being a privileged one. If you are not there, I can just pick up anybody. And so this is how spiritual consciousness begins to change us. And this transmutation has to be experienced. It's not a rocket science, not something very difficult to even perceive. And then you don't do an effort, oh, he hurt me, I'm practicing, I'm trying forgiveness. To forgive. Forgiveness sounds, to a spiritual consciousness, forgiveness will sound so absurd. When do you forgive? When you place yourself in a superior position. Oh, you fellow, you have tried to hurt me, but see, I am so high, I forgive you. You just won't be hurt. Even you will feel pity and compassion that look at this person. He's hurting himself. So many times you feel somebody who's trying to hurt you. You will have a prayer for that person because you'll feel he's hurting himself or herself by becoming a bundle of anger. So this is how it is consciousness, and as it expands, it begins to take things in the world within itself. Of course, it brings its plus and minus, but then when you have an expanded consciousness, you have more strength. Automatically, it is not just awareness. As I said, always will accompanies. That's what is collective yoga. Each one who undertakes the journey of yoga, at least this yoga. So automatically a time comes when the inner consciousness is freed from its grip of matter and material world, and it begins to expand. So automatically you take in many other, it's like when the Ganges is wide, it begins to take all kinds of, from dead corpses to all that is offered, and it flows towards the source, carrying everything. This is how a yogin helps the world. He doesn't go about doing external acts of free medicine and free blankets. It's okay if somebody is moved to do that, one can do that. These are ways by which we try to escape from the ego sense. So when consciousness is withdrawn, again, it's, people sit for meditation and then unable to meditate, so they take up a course. The costlier the course, the more they feel good. It's like if a doctor charges heavy money, you better feel good. You have anyways emptied half your pocket. But if somebody gives you free advice, let's take a second opinion. So how this change takes place when we live in the ego and the desired self. Consciousness is in a small little hole. It suffers at every blow, at every stroke. That's why the mother laments in one of her prayers, what a strange thing is this ignorance, that men keep away from the very thing which will free them all suffering. And it subjects them to the painful and school of fashioned ignorance, which is almost entirely fashioned from suffering. Why suffering comes? To remind us that my life is so incomplete, imperfect. So that at least now people will try to change the consciousness. So spirituality is actually meant to live life more fully. There is a greater awareness. There is a deeper awareness. Then compassion, all this comes very naturally. You don't need to forgive because you don't condemn anyone, but there is a compassion, you understand. And automatically you take in so much more. And then she takes so much more. So all these external means with which we try, schemes through which we try to help this world, which are okay at our own level, we discovered that by being fully is the best help that we can give to the world. People often ask, but what about my family? We have these questions. Change. Lead a life which is a truly spiritual life. It will have a great impact on the family. Because children will breathe that atmosphere. Very naturally they will breathe. apart from the fact that they will see this ideal, but we have to live it, not just, obviously speak about it. So automatically this has an impact, not initially, but eventually. It's not like, as I said, there will be many, many small little steps. And every little step is a beautiful step. And these steps are often what we don't even count as steps. I'll give a small little example. Many of us have come here today. It has been raining, still people have come. So, why have people come? There were several choices, but they came. Not to listen to me, that's not the point, but to listen to something on Mother and Aurobindo and the yoga. So what happens? From the point that one decides that I have to go, and then one undertakes the journey, you're driving. Already, as they say, gaadi ka meter chalu hai. The meter is running. What is the meter saying? It is saying all these actions are directed ultimately to flow towards the mother. That's what. So all these small steps. So the step is not just that you reach, one reaches and one listens. Every little thing, one goes to Pondicherry. One takes the journey. So it's not just the fact that when you are at the samadhi and okay, fine. Every step that you have taken, from the inner decision to buying the ticket and reaching there. That's why it is said in our Shastra, something very nice. Draupadi says that every step you take to either meet a truly spiritual person, she doesn't use the word truly, but in today's context we have to use that. But still doesn't matter. Your intent should be that, you're with that idea. Or every step you make to go to a holy pilgrimage has this capacity of giving you the merit of an Ashwamedh Yajna. Why? You're taking just a step, but it is not the action, it is the intent. This is so important. Entire Indian dharma, the whole understanding of dharma, it is not the action, the intent. Intent should be right. Your motive should be clear. If the motive and intent is that one wants to realize the divine or go toward the divine, even if you were not able to take a step, but you are feeling that. There's so many stories like that. Sri Ramakrishna has recounted one, and Aurobindo has ratified that story. He says it is so true. Two stories, in fact. One of them is that there is this two friends and they are going together. And there's evening now, so one of the friends says, okay, my time. The other says, my time. Both part ways. One goes to have drinks and the other goes to have another kind of drink. One for the wine, the other for divine. Both die. As it happens, some magic happens. Okay, it's a story. They go to the pearly gates, Chitragupt, and he says, Chitragupt, it's very interesting. Chitragupt, thus, what is that called? Hidden eye, which records everything. So the fellow who went to drink, he said, you have a place in heaven. So he says, oh, truly compassionate. If he is going to heaven, God knows where I will go. He says, there's this fires of hell waiting for you. What nonsense, your computer is wrong. No. What do you mean? He says, he was sitting in that bar and thinking how nice of my friend, he can engage in such lovely activity. I wish I was like him. And he would take a gulp and again think, I wish I was like him. And he says, and you, sitting in that temple, you were thinking that how he can enjoy life, I can't enjoy. I wish I could enjoy life like him. And there is another story which is very illustrative. The story is of a monk who is sannyasi, who is sitting, and across the hillock there is a little house where there is a lady who is into many men, and he is counting, what kind of a horrible woman, what kind of a life she is leading. And again they both go, and this lady is sent to high seats, and this fellow is asked to stay in hell. And he said, why? But why? He says, you spent your life not looking at the divine in her, but counting her sins. And so your mind is filled with filth, because you are seeing only filth. Okay, what about her? That she was distressed, or circumstances were what they were. So every time a man came in her life, she would say, I just can't help it, this ugly thing that I have to engage in. Oh Krishna, you come into this man and rescue me. She was remembering Krishna. So these are not just stories, they are facts of spiritual experience. They have very practical implications in our life. When you want to break a habit which you feel doesn't go, even in that flow, remember the divine, and you see how the knot and the bond will break. So, in spiritual life, it's not just about, people often say, I cannot sit for meditation, I don't get time to, read, I can't travel to Pondicherry. But can't we think of the divine? At least the wish. Aurobindo even doesn't say think, he says aspire. What is aspiration? It happens deep within us. This can go on inside constantly. Okay, we may not remember constantly, but every time, my wish I was at your feet. My wish I could travel to the ashram. There are people who may be living in the ashram but not find that closeness. I'll stop with that one experience, because this can go on, and let's have question answers, because otherwise I'll just keep flowing. So there was this a real experience of one lady who was terminal stage with malignancy had spread into her body, and she was on very heavy dose of painkillers, 12 capsules of Proxivon, those who know. Very addicting. It's almost a narcotic, analgesic, but terminal stages. So the husband and children came and they contacted me. They somehow knew, and they said we want her to go inside. And then I got to know the story that this lady has been telling them for last 12 years, take me to Pondicherry. I want to once go to ashram and bow my head at the samadhi. But we were all busy. Now when she got this cancer and this has spread, she says, I am not going to spare you people unless you take me. So they felt that at least fulfill her wishes. They brought her. So I spoke to the concerned people, because she couldn't walk. She was on stretcher. She wanted to go to the samadhi. So we got that other gate open, Nalnidas gate, from that you can enter. So there were people who were carrying 4 people stretcher. I was also accompanying. And it was a sight to see when she was at the samadhi, and she would want to touch. She's full of pain, and somehow she wants to put her head on the samadhi. And then after all that going around, and she sits in the ambulance and goes back. I was in the ambulance. The atmosphere was so beautiful, so divine. There was no sick person there, but was almost like a realized person. That moment, it was like a moment of, for her, apocalypse. And then she goes. She died exactly after 2 days. What a release. So, she could not come. But every time she felt. So, spirituality is not just about doing, it's about being. Whereas one may go to a congregation, but one may be simply getting bored. Aurobindo says, some people do meditation as if they are paid their debt to God. I have done my half an hour, okay? You are duty bound to do the rest. What half an hour? And then another place where he says that I went to a place full of holy men and I was bored. And God took me to a prison, and that became my trysting ground with him. So again, it's not about, everything has its place, not to say, but the real thing is what goes on inside. That seeking, that tadap, that aspiration. And nobody stops us. There are so many more. We are driving, we are flying, we are walking, 100 things we are doing. And if this aspiration can go on, it is as simple as that. as beautiful as that, as fulfilling as that. And if we do that, whatever we love, whomever we love, whatever our mind conceives as the sure idea, concentrates upon, ultimately we end up becoming that. A time comes when the consciousness starts getting identified with the Divine Mother, a portion of her. And then life is beautiful, blissful, peaceful. Okay, so let's have some questions, because one could just flow endlessly. So this is the change of consciousness. Consciousness engaged with the lowest surface in a hole, stuck in a hole, has to disengage itself. Now we can do it with meditation, turning within. It's not so easy. But if we get attracted and attached to that which represents to it the all consciousness, it's so much easier. That's what Sri Krishna says in the Gita. When Arjuna says, "You are teaching me a way, what about those who go climbing with their own effort?" He says, "Pantha duratya, they also ultimately reach me, but it's a very difficult path. It's like you are stuck in the hole and you want to do it all by yourself. Nobody stops." But if you see that there is something attracting you like a magnet, the magnet of a difficult ascent, then it becomes so much easier, happier. Even otherwise she will be there, but because we won't even recognize. If she stretches a hand, we will not hold the hand. We want to do it all by ourselves. It's okay, nothing wrong. There are people who want to follow that path. That's why bhakti is, of course, those who are blessed with it, it's the crowning movement, surrender. Aurobindo says, surrender is the beginning of this yoga. Surrender is the path, and surrender is the crowning movement of this yoga, where everything starts with the central surrender, my life is yours. It proceeds with surrender. Everything, good, bad, nice, painful, everything is surrendered. And finally, the crowning movement is, let thy will be done. It's a complete abandon in the hands of the divine. Okay, here we can stop. Yes, we can start with the question.
When we speak of withdrawing the consciousness, there are many different methods, and even in the Greenville instructions, we had many different ways of doing it. One of them, it sounds almost like some of the things you're talking about are the withdrawing of the consciousness from the body in the awareness and being a completely separate entity. But is not this a, sometimes, depending on the circumstance, less instructive method? Could there not, is there value to experiencing the great suffering in entirety versus the what would be your...
See, to each one, there is no standardized method to start with. Step one. Second, it's not even either or. There are times when you just want to be inward, in a state of inwardness. And there are moments when you call help from the mother. But experiencing suffering deliberately, willfully, no. Because that will be contrary to the truth of spirit is the truth of freedom and delight. It's not a truth of suffering and pain. But suffering will come. Plenty. Life is full of it. We should not want to suffer, but we should not be afraid of suffering. If it comes, as it will inevitably come, we should use even that as a one more stone to move toward the divine. Rest for each one. Some are more inclined towards doing things in a very methodical, technical way. It's fine. So they like to, sit in a particular way and, practice is perfectly fine. Most important is why they are doing whatever they are doing. The divine does not give the fruit. Sri Aurobindo's letter is there. According to the method or the sadhana, he is giving the fruit based on the sincerity of your aspiration. That he knows. So one may sit for long hours and, feel, see, I can meditate so much. People can feel like that. They may look around, this fellow, he doesn't know how to meditate. So that's what I said. The smallest gestures don't escape that consciousness. Smallest gestures. We may not take cognizance of that. But to the divine consciousness, which is all seeing, all knowing, all loving, and all powerful, nothing escapes. So every little thing which has emerged, that's why perfection is so difficult, because nothing escapes that eye. We have a very good opinion about ourselves, which is okay at some point, probably it's even required. Better to have a good opinion than a bad opinion. Rajasic ego is better than a tamasic ego. But better still to have no opinions and leave it. So there are different ways and different people do it differently. But there is no doubt that ultimately there is a higher consciousness, which is not just... See, by the very fact we use the word consciousness, we imply being. I am conscious of myself, therefore I am a being. If I am not conscious of myself, I am a body lying on this stretcher. So that consciousness which is fully self-aware of itself and the world is by its very nature being, supreme being. So obviously we may forget from our side, because we are engaged with this material reality or this narrow little cramped up consciousness called life. But that consciousness never forgets, it can never be separated. So it is always there, around us, near us, reaching out to us in various ways. So to turn towards that, to take help from that, to surrender, is the supreme wisdom also. Yes, please.
Aurobindo's one-page article on avatarhood and evolution.
Yes.
So in this particular evolution, supramental consciousness descended. Descending, right?
Yeah.
Aurobindo said that after 2000 years, supramental man will come. So the same process is involved in the previous avatars, like when SAYFNA was born, like overmind consciousness must have...
Yes. Absolutely. With Ramayana, it is so evident. If you look at the time of Ramayana or Parshuram, Satyug. Parshuram is avatar in Satyug. So in Satyug, you see that the Rakshasa is ruling. That's why he had to destroy. People often say Satyug mein everybody was good. It is true that in Satyug, those who were there lived by the dharma in the heart, spontaneously. They didn't intellectualize it, mentalize it to that extent. But if during Satyug everybody was good, then what was Parshuram doing? With 21 times he had to destroy, kill all the Kshatriyas because they were arrogant, they were asuric in nature. So that is also the other side of the story, this idea of a age when, but it was a typal age. Men lived with a dharma in their heart. Nobody needed to tell them. That's why it's a beautiful age. And then comes this Treta when Rama takes up, the Asura takes up the Rakshasa within him. And the Vanara is taken up by the human. And then there is the struggle and eventually a rational thinking. Dharma takes its seat in the mind from where it governs itself, its own life. And then comes the Dwapar. There the Dharma changes into rules and regulations, gets codified. Still, mind has entered still deeper. So that's why you see the whole narrative in the Gita is question answers. It is the demand of the age. And everything has become codified. So they have a discussion in the assembly of Hastinapur whether Draupadi is really fit to be the Samragyi or not. Because now it's all mentalized. And you have the technicalities of the Dharma. Bhishma says it's okay whatever happened because of this technical flaw. Because mind, that's what is talked of in the Bible as the fall. But it was required. The mind, mental consciousness was required because now you have to, the Dharma is to be revealed on the luminous peaks. And then in Kali Yuga, it breaks down. Everything breaks down. So there is a state of anarchy which we see today. No Dharma, no rules, no regulations. In Dwapar, it is held by regulations. In Treta, it is held by the king. And in Satyug, it is held in the human heart. But doesn't mean that everybody was living by that. But now, so Rama had to embody that luminous mind, luminous intellect, rational mind. So when we see his arguments, very interesting. When Dashrath tells him that he accepts the verdict of father's wish, and Lakshman tells him that what nonsense, we must revolt. He literally says that. He says we must revolt. This king has gone crazy after a woman. He says in so many words, he says, Bhaiya, you are not doing the right thing. And then Rama explains logically why he is doing what he is doing. Vali asks him, why you are killing me? Why you have been partial towards Sugriva? And he explains logically why he is doing what he is doing. He's not just saying, well, that's my truth. Parshuram would say that. I don't care who you are, I don't care to explain. You are an asura and out you go. That's how Parshuram would act. But Rama will explain because now dharma has entered into the mind. But in Dwapar, it will see Shri Krishna, how he takes pains to put Yudhishthira on the throne because that is the rule. The eldest must come. Luckily, it happened to be Yudhishthira. So, but he wants to do it in a proper way because that's the demand of the age. In Kali Yuga, all that is gone. Why? Because now a new Satyug will come when men will discover the dharma not only within the heart but also on the luminous peaks of creation. That's what the supermind. That is where Satya Dharmaye Drishtaye, the Satyam Ritam Vrahatam of the Vedas, which was glimpsed from afar. But to live that truth requires a freedom from ego because that does not act according to a standard format. Supermind doesn't act according to a list of do's and don'ts. It doesn't act according to any mental conception because it's beyond all of them. So then we see every avatar did something. Buddha broke us from all mental formations and conceptions. It's a requirement. If we stick with them, and in this yoga it doesn't happen through the Buddha's way, but it happens by the very fact you are turning to the infinite. All these conceptions, systems, philosophies, they collapse because you see each is a scaffolding. It reaches a point from where you can see the infinite, but you can't take a leap. A step in all is sky and God. So in this yoga, the dharma, the supermind is what? It is the Satya Dharmaya Drishtaya of Yajnavalkya. Hiranmayena patrena satyasyapi hitam mukham. Tattvam pushanna pavranu Satya Dharmaya Drishtaya. The law of truth. We are right now governed by the law of ignorance. That's why so much chaos takes place, evil takes place. When the law of truth operates, it doesn't act according to human notions. That's why divine justice is so difficult to understand. Divine justice doesn't act according to any mathematical calculation. It acts according to the vision of truth. Of course, we can take up individual cases and understand. But what is that vision of truth? It is leading everybody toward that grand disclosure. It's one function, purpose. So that's how it acts, which is so different. That's why people couldn't understand why Aurobindo is, even he gave to the war fund to the Britishers. He stood against the Nazi forces, though they were speaking of Arya and Swastik and all that. Even now, these terms have been spoiled. Superman, the word has already been, spoiled. New race. You see, it is written behind money. New world. Before the new world has come. New world is on money. That's not how it is. So many people get attracted. Oh, new world has come. New world is not fashion. But the word is corrupted. Supermind doesn't care about it. It doesn't see. And Mother told this when people in Bengal, now we know what is happening in Bengal. And I'm talking of 70, and there are a lot of chaos going on, and in Soviet it has started, and communism had taken, hold. Later on, it took total roots. And Pradyuddha, who was one of the trustees also, and he asked Mother, what shall I say to the people of Bengal? He said, what can I say? Bengal has deserted Sri Aurobindo. These were his words. She said, but Mother, you are there. He says, yes, but now the charge is with supermind. Supermind is truth consciousness. It doesn't care. You may be a very religious man, but it sees that this is a mask of Ravan. It doesn't see, every day he is going to temple. It doesn't care about that. It's a truth consciousness. So the world is going to go through a very prachand. Arambh hai prachand. Dekhe mastakon ke jhund. But it is going to, nations won't stand up against it. Such a tremendous power. And we may have our own calculations of good and bad and right and wrong. But the truth consciousness sees the intent inside, sees the truth that should be done. So that age has started. It's something unbelievable. We can't even imagine. That's why she said that, tell the ego your hour is gone. No more authorities will work except that. Align yourself with truth. Let thy will be done. Turn towards truth. And she even said truth in speech, truth in feelings, truth in actions. At least to start with. Because only that's going to survive, which is aligned with the truth. All else will collapse. We may not understand it today, but we'll see it happening. Because it's truth consciousness. It doesn't, you can't fool it. We have so many stories of Mother and Sri Aurobindo where Mother would say, oh, you want to test the divine? It's an all-knowing consciousness. It knows who is what. You can't fool it. You can't deceive it. So that's why sincerity is the one quality which is going to be the thing in the age that is dawning or has dawned. Sincerity. So, yes, the supramental other avatars did embody, and they were each a step. And people thought that they are antagonized to each other. That's why it took long for people to accept Buddha. Why? Because Buddha is Avedic. It took time to accept that tantras are also belonging to the Agam literature. Because people get shut into formulas. But this age which is coming is beyond all formulas, beyond all that is known, heard, read. I can say this not just with conviction, but with real experience that this is different. It's a Veda of Vedas, or the culmination of the Neti Neti Jako Shruti Kave, it's beyond that. So yes, and Sri Aurobindo, the Mother, embodied this new consciousness. Shri Krishna embodied the overmind consciousness. That's why we can see it in the Gita, so many verses which are very clear overmind consciousness. Rama embodies the intellectual consciousness, but turned upward in such a beautiful, luminous way. When everybody calls him, you are Narayan, you are Hari, he says, well, you can say this because everybody is Narayan. So he says, in a sense, Hari is inside everybody. I understand you are seeing Hari in me, but you are also Hari. So what was he doing? He was awakening them to their own spiritual possibility. That was Rama's way. He doesn't say, yes, I am Hari. But Shri Krishna, because from over mind peak, you see where humanity is. So he says, Man manabhav mad bhakta madhyaji ma namaskaru. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam praja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshishami masucha. Somebody may think it's egoistic, but no, it's from that state of superconscious. Standing on the over mind, he calls humanity. Literally tells it, surrender and I will. He is literally inviting humanity to come and surrender. That's that height on which he stands. So each avatar did that. But now the crucial crossover, which is the beautiful part. Because still over mind, you can still collapse back. There's still a veil that separates the creator and the creation. What is supermind? Creator unveiled. Creator meeting the creation directly. Not easy, because it's literally like saying sun and earth are meeting together. So this whole journey till now is a preparation for that grand. I personally feel it's such a... people look for excitement and adventure. This is the one which is surreal. The most exciting adventure ever conceived by humanity. Transmutation of human life into a divine life. What else would one ever want? Yeah, please.
Dr. Pandey, I heard 3 times or many times the word the consciousness is stuck in the hole.
Yeah.
And how and what should I do? And I'm talking about in general.
Yes.
How can I and what should I do to move to a higher gear?
Yes, so it can start when consciousness is stuck. By whole, I mean
Yeah.
normally in a narrow space. It's created by the ego or an extreme ego. That's why Mother says, depression is acute egoism. It's not to be seen as good and bad and right and wrong. What should one do? One is, even in that extreme state, think of that which is vast. At least the mind should not allow itself to be trapped. That's the whole story of lost footsteps, the Nazi concentration camp where Aurobindo started appearing before this man. Even in prison, where one is in the worst possible state, think of that which is beyond everything. We give the name God, infinite, doesn't matter. And to help in that remembrance or thought, we can take the help of an idea. So Aurobindo in the Alipur jail was walking between the cowshed and the place where people make the prisoners make objects. What was it that he was constantly saying? He describes that. He says those two verses from the Isha Upanishad. Yasmin yastu sarvani bhutani atmanyevanupashyate. And he says that he was literally, that in the tree and everywhere, he started by that he believes, he meditates on the idea that there is the divine presence inside. And it's such a powerful practice. I can tell you that, walking on the road and, people go to park to spend some time, cooking food. Literally that the divine presence is in everything, even 5 minutes of this meditation. And Aurobindo has described it very powerfully in one of the passages in Isavasya Upanishad. Looking at the stars, and there is the divine presence in this pillar. That's how Prahlad says. He's in the pillar. He's in the bulb. He's in you, me, everyone. Just to even think about it. So mind, at least we can take help of the mind, which, we should not allow the mind to be submerged by all the situations will overwhelm life. But mind can still remain free. Then how will the heart arrive at freedom? Heart arrives at freedom by loving the divine. That's, here it is, I'm in the whole. I'm not only thinking about the sky above, but I am stretching my hand and saying, hello. Pull me. The hand will come. So the heart gets engaged. Even life can come out, even though the body is stuck in a situation. Maybe terminal illness, maybe anything. Very depressing situations. How life treats everything as a sacrament and worship and service of the eternal. So if we live life like that, then slowly the mind, these are the 3 levels at which the 3 pash of Varun, which Varun frees, Suna shape. There's a story in the Vedas. Mind is also gets, we experience, when we are caught up in an impossible situation. Mind is, what has happened? Why it has happened? At least mind, we can liberate. That situation is there. Heart, it's troubled. Turn it toward the divine. You are there. I seek help from you. Doesn't matter. Help will come. We should seek it. Sometimes it takes a little longer, sometimes depending on the kind of contact. Life, turn everyday work into worship. I'm not going to, see a client. The client is Narayana coming to me. I'm not seeing a patient. The patient is Narayana coming to me. I'm not meeting my wife. My wife is Devi. देवता तो सब बोलते हैं पति देवता पत्नी देवी. I'm not meeting my child, but the child is little bundle of joy is none else but the divine wearing this mask. So this comes with practice, and the more we practice, and for that we can take help of a mantra. As I said from the Isha Upanishad, when Aurobindo was asked what is the best idea to meditate upon, he said, and of course this 1916, before the mother has taken full charge, but he says that the best idea is what is given in the Isha Upanishad, that the divine is in all is in the divine, and all is the divine. Later on he would just summarize it in one word, Ma. So this is how the yoga proceeds. It is not something we have to sit and do and find a separate time. We have to make the flow of time flow toward the eternal. All activities should become an offering. It doesn't matter, we may not remember every time, even purely mechanical activities, taking a bath, sitting on the washroom, everything should become a kind of, the moment we think of the mother and offer it. Till a time comes when this no more to be done, because it become a constant state. Before we do anything, before we eat, before we wash our hand, before we step out, all these. So when we do that, consciousness at one point, depending on what has been the cause of its being stuck, at one point it suddenly gets unstuck. And then life begins. Breath comes back. Yeah. In one word, call the mother, think of the mother. Yeah, please.
I'm given to understand that the highest supramental meditation is there within any meditative posture, but it's simply our propensities, preferences that give us one. When should one, and if that's not true, tell me, when should one choose a state that is more advantageous for your growth versus...
Yes, it's a good question. We'll not touch the supermind. I'll come to it in a couple of minutes. But methods and techniques. Well, each one has his own method. For instance, in Pondicherry, we often greet each other, say bonjour, or I love this because I feel a heart connection. But if I make it into a universal rule, then I am turning it into a religion. So the big problem of method is that after some time, life is lost out of it. You kneel down before a presence, or you fall on your knees and you do pranam. But if you say everybody must kneel down 5 times a day, lifting your hands up, wearing a green cloth, then you are basically turning it into a deadly religion. So things may help me in a certain way. They may help others. But problem, how cults get formed, religions get formed, when you crystallize, because divine loves variety. Poor fellow, we are making, he has left his bliss because it's monotone. Aurobindo says that, in fact, Upanishad puts it like that. Why this creation? It says, ekaki na ramyate. He's alone in his inalienable bliss. He wants many. Variety. He loves when somebody calls ma, somebody says amma, somebody says mama, somebody says mother, somebody says dusmer. He loves it. He enjoys. That's ultimately creation is to multiply that joy of oneness into multiplicity. But when we standardized a format, then he says, this fellow has again done the same error. Only this method, only this way. So this is one part. So we have to discover. Each one has to discover his own way. There are people who go to the samadhi and bow down. There are others who just stand. It doesn't mean that somebody who is not bowed down is... sometimes people have asked me, I have seen you, doctor, you are bowing before the mother, you don't bow before Aurobindo. I said, no, there are people, once in a whole series of lectures in Nainital, there was a group which has come, which was a particular follower of some Guruji. He said, Dr. Saab, you speak very well, but there is only one problem. I said, yes, I am used to hearing problems. Tell me what is the problem. He said, you should start your lecture by saying, Hari Om. I said, that looks so pretentious to me. That's one thing I cannot do. I can't pretend. Don't ask me to pretend. If I feel naturally Hari Om, I'll say at the top of my voice. But if I start my lecture saying Ma, then you will turn it into a religion. So it's my inner connection. But people want everything to be standardized. So our own ritual has to supermind. See, what is supermind? Aurobindo, when he describes in the synthesis, that's what we have been speaking about. He has all methods and no method. Supermind is divine consciousness at its full effulgence without any veils. What are the veils? My own ideas, conception. Divine can do this, he cannot do this. Divine is this, he is not this. But supermind is creator. If you ask the creator, who are you? Will he say, well, this is me, creator, that is creation? Will he say that? He has become all this. He has no option. Poor fellow. He will say, you, this, that, everything is myself. My child, you don't know it. But I want you to discuss. That's why the highest truth is Soham Asmi and Tattvamasi. But obviously it can be misunderstood at a stage of development. Soham Asmi means that Purusha there. Isha Upanishad puts it differently. Sa Purusha evascha. That Purusha there and this here are one. But also we must know that it's not only me, but Tattvamasi. You too are that. So these are various forms of meditation. So meditating upon an idea frees you from, the physical postures, techniques. So I personally prefer it because, it's like the mind anywhere. You may be driving a car and meditating upon the idea that the divine is everywhere in everything. But if you have to imagine sit in a posture, it can be very inconvenient. I was traveling with the Swamiji once. And Swamiji, I could see visibly he is very uncomfortable. I was going for a lecture. And Swamiji somehow accompanied. And I said, Swamiji, all is well. I thought he's unwell. What? No. When will the train stop? I said, okay, it will stop after this time, after checking the timetable. He says, I have to do my puja and mantra. I said, you do it now? No, I have to take a bath. I said, okay, you can take a bath in the bathroom. Actually, I was serious. I said, we can arrange some glass or something and you can go. I understand some people are ritualistic. No. He reminded me of my grandmother. When the train will stop half an hour, then they will go, that time hand pump, take a bath. And once we literally had to pull the chain because she was still taking the bath. So, you see, now he gets tied to that's why Swami Vivekananda, what did he say? Every day you should give bath to your body and to your soul. But if you can't give bath to the body, give bath to the soul. Otherwise, travel will be so difficult. Transcontinental travel, because you can't remember the divine. You have not taken a bath. And imagine if I ask them, give me a mug in your flight bathroom, I want to take a bath. They will probably, without my knowledge, ask for a psychiatrist anywhere around. So, Sri Aurobindo says his yoga begins with this idea that the spirit is involved in the mind. That's what it means. But Hatha Yoga, Raj Yoga, these methods too much focus on the outer discipline because there the spirit is involved in the body or the prana. So they use this method and it's valid for that state. But human beings who have reached a certain degree of development, the spirit is involved in the mind. Involved means they is stuck in the mind. So from there you have to release it. How? By the power of thought. The same, it is stuck in the jungle of thoughts. So you pick up that idea which will liberate the thoughts from that jungle. So this can continue anywhere and everywhere. That's why Sri Aurobindo says, remember and offer. You can remember. So that's how it is. Yeah. Yes, please.
There is a beautiful book, The Sunlit Path.
Yes.
And to Buddha with blessings, Mother, you said so.
Yes.
And 12 years with Lord Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
Very sense of humor, reality, practical of the life.
Yeah.
The way the mother says, I'm the mother.
Yes.
Like religion. She is not here to spread the religion.
Yeah. Supreme.
Yes.
You're referring to many beautiful books, of course. Another one is White Roses.
The right, yes.
So they are such, mother's writings are so simple, beautiful, direct. That's what I feel one of the tragedies, that they have given so much. We don't even read. See, Sri Aurobindo literally gave his eyes for the world to wake up to a new sight. Literally. Toward the later part, he physically could not, he could see, but not that way. And yet he could recognize by contact of consciousness, like Amal Kiran recount that story. Page, that you remind me of that poem, seer deep-hearted, divine king of secrecies. Vast in thy soul was a tide washing the coasts of heaven. Words broke burning and bare, crossing the human night. White Star scripts of the gods born from the presses of light, page by page, to the dim children of earth were given. So we should, of course, we should read anything from Mother and Sri Aurobindo, anything. I used to read traveling by train, in the bathroom, during my MD, even like some places you have to go, because, and I would carry my own volume. And some people would think, Arey, what is this? Standing in the queue. You have to stand in the queue sometimes, because, of course, that habit had got during medical time. I would read that time medical book. I could read. So I started reading Mother's writings. So you carry bus, entire journey from Pondicherry to Bangalore. So many times I must have traveled. I've read the entire agenda like that. Carrying me. And it's so beautiful. And when you finish that, then Nalninda, as you said, 12 years with Sri Aurobindo's life, Mother, whatever way we read. The beauty is that what happens when you read? Forget about understanding, not understanding. You are in the company of the Lord. It's not a book. It's these words are spoken by her. So when I read, I am in a company of the Divine Mother. So knowingly, unknowingly, my consciousness is coming in contact with her. And that's what is important. Doesn't matter whether we understand or not. What is the life divine? Life divine is Sri Aurobindo's letter to us. Oh, human aspirant. And then he takes us, you know what. At the end he says, you are destined for the divine life. Read it like that. It's a joy. If we don't understand, doesn't matter. It's like, I give this example as a doctor. We prescribe a capsule. Whether you know its effect or not, you swallow it. Fire will burn whether you know it burns or not. So their works purify, help us. They are Shabd Brahma. Of course, we should not get stuck into words and scholarship. But still, at least we are engaging in some way or the other with something which has emerged from the divine. In whatever way. The photograph, a blessing packet. That's why it's so important to have these collective program. People don't understand its value. Sangam, it's a yagya. Because individually, one tends to forget. It's a fact that one tends to forget. So when people come together, whether you like it or not, that atmosphere is there. It helps. It seeps in. Every little effort, however small, is a help. So reading their books, yes. Savitri, prayers and meditation. Amazing. Okay.